This list starts with a pay dispute. It ends with something no amount of studio negotiation could have prevented. Between those two things, 9 TV characters we lost before we were ready. And the further you get into this list, the heavier it gets. Some of these are stories about the business of television, contracts, feuds, decisions that aged badly. But some of them are about something that goes beyond the business, entirely about what happens to a show when it loses someone it cannot replace, in ways no writer's room has a protocol for. These are 9 beloved TV characters lost too soon. Starting at number 9. Number 9. Sam Seaborn. The West Wing. Sam Seaborn was supposed to be the lead of The West Wing. Rob Lowe carried the biggest name recognition in that cast when the show launched in 1999, and Sam was written as the character the series would orbit around the young idealist at the center of a presidential administration trying to do the right thing. Then Martin Sheen's Jed Bartlett took over, and Sam Seaborn started shrinking. By season 4, Lowe had become the only principal cast member still earning his original first-season salary. Variety reported at the time that he was pulling in around $75,000 per episode, while Sheen, who had renegotiated, was earning $210,000. Lowe pushed producers for a raise. When those conversations went nowhere, he announced in July 2002 that season 4 would be his last. The exit statement he released was unusually candid. Lowe admitted it had become increasingly clear for some time that there was no longer a place for Sam Seaborn on the show. Writers sent Sam off to run for Congress in California, and Lowe returned for 2 episodes in season 7. It was a professional departure made for professional reasons. No screaming, no public feud, just a man who could read the math and knew what it meant. What the show lost is harder to quantify. Sam Seaborn was supposed to carry the West Wing into its future. Instead, he went to California and didn't come back. Number 8. Charlie Pace. Lost. Charlie Pace died in the season 3 finale of Lost, and the circumstances around his exit are more complicated than they appear from the outside. Dominic Monaghan, by multiple accounts, was ready to leave the show. He and co-star Evangeline Lilly had ended a relationship, making the day-to-day of production difficult in the way those situations always are when 2 people have to keep working together. Monaghan reportedly signaled to the producers that he wanted an out. The writers gave him one, and they did it in a way that turned Charlie's death into one of the most emotional moments in the show's entire run. The season 3 finale episode, Through the Looking Glass, gave Charlie a full hero's arc and one of the most quoted final moments in television. He wrote "Not Penny's boat" on his hand. He looked through the porthole at Desmond. He made the sign of the cross and let the room flood. It was a beautiful death for a character the audience genuinely loved. And yet the response from fans was that it came too early, that Lost still needed Charlie, that his exit punched a hole in the ensemble that didn't fully close. The irony is that the show honored his exit as completely as any character departure of the era. The loss still stung anyway. Number 7. Tara Maclay. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Before we get to how Tara Maclay died, there is one detail about how Amber Benson found out that tells you everything about how this was handled. Benson had been a recurring presence on Buffy for 2 full seasons, beloved by the audience, central to some of the show's most important storylines, but never upgraded to series regular. Then the producers came to her with what sounded like good news. She was finally going to be added to the opening credits. She agreed, was handed the script for the season 6 episode Seeing Red, and discovered that her character would be killed in that same episode, the first one where her name appeared in the credits. Tara was shot by a stray bullet meant for Buffy, dying in Willow's arms seconds after the two had reconciled. The death was used to trigger Willow's descent into dark magic for the rest of the season. The audience reaction was unlike anything the show had seen. Tara and Willow had been one of the first significant lesbian relationships on network television, and their pairing had meant something real to a generation of viewers who rarely saw themselves reflected in primetime. Killing Tara, particularly through a stray bullet, through the specific storytelling device of punishing a queer character's happiness with immediate death, ignited a backlash that is still cited today in academic discussions of LGBTQ representation in media. Joss Whedon defended the creative choice as consistent with the show's philosophy that no character was safe. The audience heard that answer and did not accept it. Amber Benson's name was in the credits for one episode. Tara Maclay was in the ground before it finished airing. Number 6. Prue Halliwell. Charmed. Shannon Doherty's Prue Halliwell died at the end of Charmed's third season in 2001, killed in a battle with a demon, and the behind-the-scenes story of why has been told in at least 3 different versions, depending on who is doing the telling. Doherty's version, given in a 2001 Entertainment Tonight interview, kept things deliberately vague, too much drama on set, not enough passion for the work anymore. That restraint evaporated years later when Doherty and co-star Holly Marie Combs recorded their podcast and laid out specifics. A producer had reportedly told them the situation had come down to an ultimatum from co-star Alyssa Milano, who had threatened legal action over what she described as a hostile workplace environment. Milano addressed those claims at a public appearance in 2024, pushing back on the framing without offering a full denial, saying she felt sad about it and questioning whether she had ever had the kind of power being attributed to her. 3 versions of the same event: the actress who left, the co-stars who stayed, and the network that kept the show on the air for 5 more seasons without its original lead. Those seasons had their audience, but the debate over whether Charmed ever fully recovered from losing Prue has never really been settled. The show outlasted her by half a decade. Prue Halliwell was never mentioned by name on screen again. Number 5. Marissa Cooper. The OC. Marissa Cooper died in a car crash on the 18th of May 2006, the Season 3 finale of The OC. And what followed that decision demonstrated something the network and creative team may not have fully understood when they made it. That Marissa wasn't just a character. She was the emotional engine the show had been built around, and removing her removed the reason a significant portion of the audience was watching. The story of how it happened is still disputed, Misha Barton told E! News in 2021 that she felt pushed out, that she had been dealing with what she described as general bullying from some of the men on set, that she felt unprotected, and that the choice presented to her was essentially leave voluntarily or be killed off. Creator Josh Schwartz offered a different account, pointing to declining ratings and network pressure to deliver something dramatic for the finale. A Vanity Fair interview for the show's 20th anniversary in 2023 added another layer. Schwartz and co-producer Stephanie Savage both admitted they regretted how the exit was handled, with Savage specifically acknowledging that the network had pushed them toward a big moment for Season 3's close. What nobody disputes is the aftermath. Season 4 of The OC was canceled after just 16 episodes. Fox pulled the plug in January 2007. Killing Marissa Cooper didn't refresh the show. It told the audience the show was over, and the audience agreed. Number 4. Cordelia Chase. Angel. Cordelia Chase had been part of the Buffyverse since the beginning. One of the original Sunnydale High ensemble transferred to Angel as its female lead, and developed across 5 years into one of the most fully realized characters in either show. Charisma Carpenter played her with a specific kind of warmth that could hold a scene without overpowering it. Then Carpenter became pregnant during Angel's 3rd season, and what happened next is one of the more documented and painful exits in early 2000s television. The pregnancy was written into the show initially, then sidelined. Cordelia was written out of most of Season 4, given a storyline that had almost nothing to do with the character, as she had been established, and then killed off in a Season 5 episode called You're Welcome, which aired, with some irony, as one of the best reviewed episodes the show ever produced. In February 2021, Carpenter made a public statement alleging that Joss Whedon had called her fat while she was pregnant, that he had created a hostile and abusive environment on set, and that her treatment had been directly connected to her pregnancy. Other cast members, including Ray Fisher from the Justice League production, came forward with corroborating accounts of Whedon's behavior. Warner Media launched an investigation. Carpenter had played Cordelia Chase for 5 years. She found out the character was being killed when she read the script. The departure was framed at the time as a creative decision. The fuller picture took 20 years to come into public view. Everything up to this point has been about decisions, creative, financial, personal. Some of them were wrong. Some of them were complicated. Some of them were made for reasons that only became clear much later. The next 3 stories are different. These are not about contracts or feuds or network pressure. These are about loss, real loss. The kind where the writer's room has no protocol and the show has to figure out how to keep going without the person it was built around. Number 3. Leo McGarry. The West Wing. John Spencer died on the 16th of December 2005 from a heart attack. He was 58 years old. The West Wing had 11 episodes left in its final season. Leo McGarry was the show's moral anchor, the White House chief of staff, who had pulled Jed Bartlett into politics and spent 7 seasons holding the administration together through the kind of quiet, patient conviction that Aaron Sorkin wrote better than almost anyone. Spencer had won an Emmy for the role. He was, by every account from his castmates, someone who made the room better when he walked into it. The production was filming season 7 when Spencer died. The writers had already established Leo as the vice presidential nominee on the Bartlett ticket. He was positioned to be central to the season's final arc. When Spencer died, they had to make a decision about how to handle it in the story, and they chose to show Leo's death happening off-screen during Election Day, discovered quietly, without the kind of dramatic television moment that would have felt wrong given what had actually happened. Martin Sheen, Allison Janney, Bradley Whitford, and the rest of the cast attended Spencer's funeral. The final episodes of The West Wing carry his absence in every scene that should have had him in it. Leo McGarry was supposed to see the administration through to the end. John Spencer almost made it. Number 2. Paul Hennessey. 8 Simple Rules. John Ritter collapsed on the set of 8 Simple Rules on the 11th of September 2003. He was taken to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank, where doctors discovered he had been suffering from an aortic dissection, a tear in the main artery leading from the heart. It had likely been developing undetected for years. He died that night. He was 54. The show had just started its 2nd season. Ritter was the center of everything. 8 Simple Rules was a family sitcom that had been built entirely around his specific energy, the kind of warm, physically expressive comedy he had spent a career perfecting. The production shut down immediately. What the show did next was handled with more care than these situations usually are. Producers worked closely with Ritter's family to determine how Paul Hennessey's death should be addressed on screen. 3 episodes were devoted to the family's grief, bringing in Henry Winkler and James Garner as relatives, giving the remaining cast room to process something that was not entirely fictional, because they were processing it too. The show continued for 2 more seasons without him. It was never the same show. It could not have been. John Ritter had been performing since the 1970s. He was in the middle of the best work of his career. Number 1. Bill McNeal. NewsRadio. Phil Hartman was murdered in his home on the 28th of May, 1998. He was 49. NewsRadio was a sharp, fast, ensemble workplace comedy that had spent 4 seasons building something genuinely special, and Phil Hartman's Bill McNeal was the reason a lot of people kept coming back. Pompous, oblivious, impeccably timed, and underneath all of it, strangely lovable. Hartman played him with the kind of effortless control that made the character look easy, which is the tell that it wasn't easy at all. He was also, at the same time, the voice of Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz on The Simpsons, 2 characters so embedded in the show's identity that the writers retired both of them permanently after his death rather than recast. The Simpsons has never recast a character out of grief before or since. NewsRadio devoted the Season 5 premiere to a tribute episode in which the cast Dave Foley, Maura Tierney, Andy Dick, Joe Rogan, Stephen Root mourned Bill McNeal's death. It was not a creative decision. There was no writer's room discussion about where the character should go next. There was nothing to discuss. The show aired 8 more episodes and was canceled. What makes Phil Hartman's story sit differently from everything else on this list is that there was no decision made here, no contract dispute, no creative falling out, no network note that could have gone differently. The show lost him in a way that had nothing to do with television, and everything else followed from that. Bill McNeal was irreplaceable because Phil Hartman was irreplaceable, and the show knew it. Conclusion. 9 characters, 9 different kinds of loss. Some of them left because the math stopped working. Some of them left because the set became a place no one wanted to be. Some of them were written out in ways that were wrong or complicated. or that only made sense to the people in the room at the time. And some of them were taken from their shows in ways that had nothing to do with storytelling at all. What connects them is the audience. Every one of these characters had people who showed up week after week because of them, who organized their schedules around the show, who cared about what happened next, who felt the absence when it came. Television moves fast. It always has. And sometimes what it leaves behind is a version of a show that's still running but missing the thing that made it worth watching. If there's a character we missed and there are plenty we didn't get, to drop them in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we do this every week. The next one is a good one.